Have you ever noticed that the women you care for the most often seem to drift away, while the ones you barely notice sometimes chase after you? It feels unfair, doesn't it? You pour your time, your energy, your heart into someone only to watch her pull back, make excuses, and eventually leave you standing in silence. Meanwhile, another man, who doesn't try half as hard, somehow has her full attention. Here's the uncomfortable truth most men never want to admit. Attraction is not about how much you give. It's not about your looks, your bank account, or even how kind you are. Attraction lives in the mind. It's psychology, pure and simple. The paradox is this: the harder you chase, the faster she runs. And yet, the moment you become a man of depth, of presence, of mystery, suddenly she leans in closer, desperate to figure you out. Think about it. Why do people get addicted to social media? Why do slot machines pull in billions every year? It's the unpredictability. The human brain craves the unknown, the rare, the scarce. Women are no different. What pulls them in isn't endless attention. It's the emotional charge you create, the way you make them feel something they can't explain, but can't ignore. But here's where most men go wrong. They hear about tricks and think the goal is to manipulate. That's not Stoicism. A Stoic man never lowers himself to games. Instead, he cultivates mastery over himself, his emotions, his presence, his purpose, and in doing so, he becomes the kind of man who naturally sparks curiosity, desire, even obsession, not because he chases it, but because he embodies it. So in this journey, I'm going to show you 7 psychological triggers rooted in science, sharpened by philosophy, and proven in life that will change the way women see you forever. This isn't about control. It's about becoming the man who doesn't need to beg for attention, because attention follows him. Now the question is, are you ready to stop chasing and start becoming? Trigger 1. The dopamine hook. The art of making someone feel addicted to your presence. Most men assume that if they give a woman constant attention, reply instantly to her texts, and always show up at her call, she will value them more. But the human brain does not work that way. Our minds are wired to crave unpredictability, to light up when there is a surprise, to feel alive when we do not know what comes next. That is the reason people scroll endlessly on social media. You never know if the next swipe will bring a hilarious video, a shocking piece of news, or a touching story. That uncertainty releases dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, and once dopamine is in play, the cycle of craving begins. Think about a man named Arjun. He was not rich, not particularly handsome, not the kind of person who walked into a room and stole everyone's attention. Yet, when he dated Sarah, she could not stop thinking about him. She woke up in the morning hoping for his message. She canceled plans with friends just to be near him. And when he was silent, she wondered anxiously what he was doing. What was his secret? He understood that women do not fall for who you are on paper. They fall for how you make them feel in the moment. Instead of drowning her with constant attention, he mixed intensity with absence. One night he surprised her with a rooftop dinner under the stars, creating a memory she could never forget. Then, for the next 2 days, he barely texted her because he was focused on his own fitness and career projects. That silence, that unpredictable rhythm, hooked her brain like a roller coaster. Now let's pause for a Stoic reflection. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This principle applies directly here. You are not in control of how a woman feels, but you are always in control of your actions. If you flood her with messages because you fear losing her, you act out of insecurity. But if you remain calm, steady, and intentional with your time, you act from strength. A Stoic man does not chase validation. He lives his purpose, and in doing so, he creates natural mystery. That mystery becomes a source of attraction without him needing to pretend or manipulate. Let me give you a modern example. Imagine 2 men using dating apps. The first man matches with a woman and instantly sends her long messages, liking every photo, replying within minutes. At first, she smiles, but quickly, his predictability becomes boring. She knows exactly what to expect, and the spark fades. The second man matches with her, sends a short and thoughtful comment, then disappears for a day because he is busy training for a marathon. When he returns, he shares a funny story from practice. His rhythm is different, not because he is playing a game, but because he has a full life. Which man do you think she will feel drawn to? Almost always, it is the second. This is the essence of the dopamine hook. It is not about withholding love or acting cold. It is about balancing intensity with space. A deep conversation one night, then a period of silence where she has the chance to miss you. A surprising gesture of kindness, followed by time spent on your own goals. This push and pull, when genuine, creates a loop in her mind. She begins to associate you with excitement, with curiosity, with a feeling she cannot get anywhere else. And because the brain remembers emotions longer than logic, she keeps coming back. But here's the warning. Do not confuse this with manipulation. Stoicism teaches us to live with integrity, to treat others with respect. If you deliberately ignore her just to make her anxious, you step into dishonesty. That kind of tactic always backfires. The true Stoic approach is to live your life fully, so that your attention is naturally scarce and your presence naturally valuable. When you train, build, work, read, and live with discipline, you cannot be available every second, and that scarcity creates desire without cruelty. Think back to history. Julius Caesar did not win loyalty because he was always present at every feast. He won loyalty because his absence was felt, because people knew he was commanding legions, changing the fate of nations. His unpredictability was not an act. It was the result of his larger mission. In the same way, when you as a man have a mission, a woman feels the pull of your presence even in your absence. So the lesson is clear. If you want to become unforgettable, do not give constant, easy access. Give moments of intensity that stir her emotions, and balance them with moments of distance where she has the space to long for you. This is the dopamine hook. It is not a trick. It is the natural outcome of living with purpose and presence. And once she associates you with that feeling of unpredictability, she will not just like you, she will crave you. Trigger 2, the scarcity magnet, the psychology of chasing what is rare. Human beings have always placed greater value on what feels limited. Think of diamonds. In truth, they are just stones. But because they are marketed as rare, people spend fortunes to own them. The same principle applies in relationships. What is scarce becomes desirable, and what is too easily available loses its shine. Take the story of Ali and Mira. They met at a wedding, spent hours talking, laughing, dancing, and by the end of the night, it seemed like something special was beginning. But then Ali fell into the trap that so many men fall into. He texted her every morning with the same predictable greeting. He canceled his own plans just to be available whenever she called. He replied within seconds, always ready, always present. For 2 weeks, he gave her everything, and then one day she stopped replying. No drama, no explanation, just silence. He was left broken and confused, asking himself, what did I do wrong? I gave her all of me. Here's the painful truth when you make yourself too available. You signal that you have nothing else going on in your life. And when your time seems worthless to you, it becomes worthless to her. Scarcity communicates value without words. The man who respects his time, who does not abandon his goals just to wait by the phone, is seen as valuable. The man who treats his time as common, to be given freely and without measure, is forgotten. Now let us add a Stoic perspective. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that his hours were slipping away, that time was his most precious possession. A Stoic man lives as though every hour counts. If you give all of that precious time away in desperation, you dishonor yourself. But when you guard it, when you invest it in your growth, your health, your craft, then your presence becomes a gift, and people feel it. A woman will feel it. She knows instinctively when she is in the company of a man who has built his own world and will not abandon it. Months later, Ali met Mira again, but by then he had changed. He had returned to his priorities, his work, his fitness, his personal goals. When she saw him, he was not desperate, not clinging, not trying to win her approval. He smiled, spoke with calmness, then excused himself to greet his friends. And suddenly the script flipped. She felt curiosity again, even attraction. What had changed his energy? His presence now communicated. I am busy building my life. Not everyone gets access to my time. That scarcity made her chase him. This lesson is simple but difficult to live. You cannot fake it. Pretending to be busy while waiting anxiously for her message is not the same as truly having a full life. You must cultivate interests, friendships, goals that matter more than her immediate attention. When your calendar is filled with purpose, you naturally become scarce, and that scarcity turns into magnetic power. Think of how businesses use this principle. A product in endless supply collects dust on the shelves, but a product with a label that says only 2 left sells instantly. Airlines, concerts, even online courses all use the power of scarcity to trigger action. It is not manipulation, it is psychology. And when applied authentically in your life, it creates the same pull. The Stoic man does not chase. He understands that if a woman disappears because he was not available 24/7, then she was not meant to walk beside him in the first place. He accepts that outcome without bitterness. But more often than not, the opposite happens. His scarcity awakens her curiosity. She wonders where he is, what he is doing, who he is becoming, and that curiosity fuels desire. So ask yourself, do you treat your time as common or as sacred? Do you give it away at the first sign of interest? Or do you protect it like a rare jewel? Remember, the principle is not to play childish games of ignoring or delaying for effect. The principle is to live so fully, so intentionally, that your time truly is rare. And once a woman feels that truth, she will lean in, not because you chased, but because she felt your value. That is the scarcity magnet. Respect your time, and others will respect it too. Become rare, and you will be pursued. Trigger 3, mystery and curiosity, the irresistible pull of the unknown. Human beings are natural explorers of what they cannot fully understand. The mind hates unfinished stories. When something is left unsaid, when a piece of the puzzle is missing, our thoughts circle back again and again trying to solve the riddle. This is the same force that keeps us glued to cliffhanger shows. The same reason gossip spreads like wildfire. Curiosity is not a weakness. It is hardwired into the brain. And when you learn to carry mystery in the way you live, you become unforgettable. Most men make the mistake of overexposure. They meet a woman and, within days, they tell her every detail of their life, every wound, every plan, every insecurity. They think transparency will win her trust, but what it really does is remove all intrigue. She feels as though she has already read the final page of the book. There is no story left to discover. Attraction fades, not because the man is unworthy, but because there is no curiosity left to feed her imagination. Now imagine another man who shares his world in pieces. He does not hide, but he does not rush to reveal everything either. He gives glimpses, a story here, a hint there. He lets silence exist without the desperate need to fill it. She leaves a conversation with questions. Who exactly is he? What drives him? Why does he choose certain words but not others? And those questions linger far longer than answers ever could. This is not about playing games. A Stoic man values honesty and integrity. Mystery is not deception, it is restraint. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." What he meant is that the mind creates powerful narratives in the absence of complete information. In relationships, this means that by not revealing everything at once, you allow someone's imagination to work in your favor. She fills the gaps with curiosity, with fascination, with desire. Think of great leaders or artists. Bob Dylan rarely explained his lyrics, and for decades people argued about their meanings. That mystery did not make him weaker, it made him timeless. Or consider Marcus Aurelius. His book Meditations was a series of private reflections, not public speeches. To this day, readers feel like they are only scratching the surface of his mind. And that endless curiosity keeps his words alive centuries later. In modern dating, mystery might look like this. Instead of answering every question directly, you share a story that hints at your values. Instead of texting constantly, you leave space for her to wonder what you are working on. Instead of updating her on every thought, you let some experiences be yours alone until the right time comes. This is not coldness. It is the art of pacing, the art of allowing curiosity to grow. Let's imagine two scenarios. In the first, a man meets a woman, and within 2 dates, she knows his entire life story, where he works, what his routine is, what his family expects of him, even the mistakes he regrets. She listens politely, but by the 3rd date, she feels no urgency to see him again. In the second scenario, the man reveals parts of his story through experiences. One night he mentions he once lived abroad, but does not give the details. Another time, she notices a scar on his hand and he only smiles, saying, "That's a story for another day." Without realizing it, she begins to think about him when he is not around. Her curiosity has been triggered, and curiosity is a powerful form of attraction. Stoicism teaches moderation in all things, including speech. To speak less than you know, to reveal only what is necessary, is a form of discipline. It protects you from foolishness and creates a quiet strength. In the same way, mystery in relationships is not manipulation, it is discipline. It is the refusal to overshare out of nervousness. It is the choice to let your actions, your presence, and your silence speak as loudly as your words. So the lesson is clear. If you want to draw someone in, do not rush to give them the entire map. Show them the path step by step. Let them wonder about your next move. Curiosity will carry their thoughts back to you even when you are not there. This is the power of mystery, and when you live it authentically, you do not just attract attention, you hold it. Trigger 4: leadership. The calm power of decisive direction. Deep inside, human beings are wired to respond to leaders. In ancient times, survival depended on following the strongest hunter, the most capable protector, the one who could guide the tribe through storms and famine. That instinct has never disappeared. Even today, in offices, in sports teams, and yes, in relationships, people are drawn to those who move with certainty. But here is where so many men confuse the concept. They think leadership means being loud, arrogant, or domineering. They raise their voice, brag about accomplishments, or insist on always having the last word. Yet this is not leadership, it is insecurity in disguise. True leadership is quiet confidence, the ability to make decisions without hesitation, the willingness to take responsibility for outcomes, good or bad. It is not about controlling another person, it is about controlling yourself and the direction of your life. Think of Kabir, who invited Sana out for dinner. Instead of asking endlessly, "What do you want to do? Where do you want to go?" he chose the place, arranged the timing, and created an experience for her. He was not pushy, he was not overbearing. He simply led with clarity. And in that moment, she felt something rare: relief. Because many women are tired of having to plan every step, of carrying the burden of decision-making in their personal lives. When a man steps forward with calm certainty, she feels safe to relax, to enjoy, to trust. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius, though emperor, constantly reminded himself to lead by example, not by force. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Leadership is not theory, it is practice. A Stoic man does not announce, "I am in charge." He shows it through his actions, his punctuality, his preparation, his grounded energy. Others feel it without him saying a word. Imagine 2 scenarios. In the first, a man takes a woman out but keeps asking, "Where do you want to eat? What movie do you want to see? Should we go left or right?" At first, she appreciates his politeness, but soon it feels like work. She is forced to carry the weight of every decision. In the second scenario, the man says, "I've booked a table at this small rooftop place I think you'll love. Afterward, we can walk by the river." She doesn't feel controlled. She feels cared for. One approach drains her energy. The other builds her trust. That is the quiet power of leadership. Leadership also shows in moments of difficulty. When problems arise, plans change. Traffic is bad. The weather ruins the evening. The insecure man panics, complains, or blames. The stoic man adapts. He stays calm, finds another path, and reassures those around him. His steadiness becomes the anchor in chaos. That steadiness is magnetic. A woman does not obsess over a man who collapses at the first setback. She remembers the man who kept his composure, who turned setbacks into stories worth telling. History is filled with men who embodied this form of leadership. Think of George Washington crossing the icy Delaware River in silence while his soldiers doubted they could survive. Or think of Admiral William McRaven, who told Navy SEAL candidates that leadership is not about barking orders, but about making calm, effective choices when others are losing their heads. These examples matter because they show the same principle. Real dominance is not about ego. It is about clarity, calmness, and direction. So how does this apply to you? Begin small. When you plan a meeting, set the time and place confidently. When you are with someone, listen fully, then decide clearly. Do not pass the burden of every choice onto her. Guide gently but firmly. And above all, lead yourself first. Get up on time. Take care of your body. Honor your commitments. If you cannot lead your own life, how could anyone trust you to lead them? The lesson is simple but powerful. Leadership in relationships is not about control. It is about creating safety. Safety allows attraction to deepen into trust, and trust allows curiosity to transform into lasting connection. When you embody calm leadership, you do not have to demand attention. You earn it naturally, and once you have it, it rarely fades. Trigger 5. The scarcity effect, the hidden power of limited attention. Imagine you walk into a store and see a shelf full of the same product. You think to yourself, I'll come back later. There's plenty left. But if that same shelf only has 3 items, you feel an urgency to grab one before it's gone. This is not just marketing, this is human psychology. We chase what feels rare. Our brain equates scarcity with value. And this principle applies just as powerfully in relationships as it does in business. Kabir understood this when he was talking to Sana. For 2 weeks, they had been sharing late-night messages, voice notes, laughter, and playful banter. Everything seemed steady. But then, without warning, he stepped back. No good morning texts, no constant check-ins, no endless emojis. 2 days passed in silence, and in those 48 hours, Sana thought about him more than in all the previous conversations combined. She checked her phone, wondered what he was doing, asked herself if she had done something wrong. His absence became louder than his words. That is the scarcity effect at work. Most men do the opposite. They think constant availability will secure affection. They reply instantly, flood her inbox, like every post, react to every story. At first, she smiles, but soon, predictability takes over. And predictability kills desire. Because when someone already knows they can have you at any moment, the urgency disappears. You become background noise. Now let's connect this with Stoic philosophy. Epictetus taught that our attention is the most valuable possession we have, because where our attention goes, our life follows. If you give your attention too freely, you waste your life. But if you guard it, invest it carefully, then people begin to treasure it. A Stoic man does not offer his attention as if it were unlimited water. He offers it like a rare vintage wine shared deliberately, savored, never wasted. Consider how teachers or mentors operate. The one who praises you constantly, every day, soon loses impact. But the mentor who rarely gives praise, who only offers it when it truly matters, leaves a mark that stays with you for years. That scarcity makes the praise valuable. The same law applies to affection. If you are always present, your presence loses weight. If you step back occasionally, your presence becomes a gift she longs for. Of course, this is not about manipulation. Pretending to be busy while secretly waiting by the phone is not true scarcity, it is deception. The point is to live with such purpose and fullness that you cannot always be available. Work on your body, build your career, nurture your friendships, chase your passions. When your life is rich, your time becomes rare naturally. And that natural rarity sparks curiosity and respect. Imagine two men again. The first man's schedule is empty. He waits all day for her to text, and when she does, he drops everything. She knows she can reach him anytime, and after a while, she takes him for granted. The second man is busy training for a marathon, reading, working late on a new project. When he replies, it is thoughtful but not instant. She never knows exactly when she will hear from him, but when she does, it feels meaningful. Which man stays in her thoughts longer? Always the second. The Stoic lesson is this: value your time and attention so highly that others must value it too. Do not cheapen it by giving it away without thought. Remember that when your attention is rare, it becomes powerful. Kabir played it perfectly when, after 2 days of silence, Sana finally reached out. "Hey stranger, where have you been?" she asked. He did not rush to reply. "After an hour," he answered. "Been working on something exciting. Can't wait to tell you when we meet." In that simple line, he flipped the dynamic. He was not the one chasing. She was. And her imagination filled the silence with questions, with longing, with desire. So the scarcity effect is clear. Make your presence valuable by sometimes removing it. Do not fear silence. Use it. Do not fill every gap. Let her miss you. When something is rare, the mind believes it is worth fighting for. And when your attention is rare, it becomes priceless. Trigger 6. The emotional roller coaster. The undeniable truth that people remember feelings far more than facts. You can tell someone 100 logical reasons why you are a good partner, but those words will fade quickly. What will never fade are the moments where you stirred their heart, where you made them laugh uncontrollably, or where you allowed them to see a piece of your soul. Attraction is not built on logic, it is built on emotion. Kabir knew this when he invited Sana to a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city lights. The air was cool, the music soft, and for a moment, the world seemed suspended. But what made that night unforgettable was not the setting. It was the way Kabir chose to share a personal story. He told Sana about a night from his childhood when he was afraid of the dark. His father had taken him to a hilltop to watch shooting stars until fear gave way to wonder. As she listened, she felt his humanity, his vulnerability, his warmth. He was no longer just a man across the table. He became a person she could feel deeply connected to. That is the power of emotional storytelling. Women do not fall in love through a checklist of achievements. They fall in love through the surge of emotion you awaken in them. And here is the key. It is not about grand performances or flashy displays. It is about authenticity. A Stoic man does not manufacture drama. He shares truth. He creates moments that are real. The emotional roller coaster is about contrast. A night of deep vulnerability followed by playful teasing. A serious conversation broken by laughter. A surprising gesture when she least expects it. Each shift keeps her heart engaged, her mind awake, her feelings alive. Predictability may feel safe, but it does not create obsession. Contrast does. Think of your favorite movie. It is not 2 hours of the same emotion. It is highs, lows, tension, release. That rhythm is what makes the story powerful. Relationships follow the same law. Now let us connect this to Stoicism. At first glance, Stoics are seen as unemotional, but this is a misunderstanding. The Stoics did not reject emotion. They sought to master it. Marcus Aurelius admitted to grief, to fear, to love, but he did not drown in them. Likewise, when you share your feelings, when you create emotional moments, you are not abandoning Stoic strength, you are showing disciplined vulnerability. You choose the time, the way, and the meaning. That choice is power. Think of a modern example. Imagine a couple sitting in a coffee shop. One man talks endlessly about his job, his plans, his car, his fitness routine. She nods politely but feels nothing. Another man tells a story about failing at something, how he stumbled, how he learned. He laughs at himself, then asks about her own experiences. The emotions shift: curiosity, laughter, empathy. Hours later, she forgets the first man completely, but the second man stays in her mind. Why? Because he made her feel. The emotional roller coaster also involves surprise. Kabir pulled out a small Polaroid camera in the middle of dinner, saying, "Let's capture this moment. Years from now, we'll look back and laugh at how nervous we were tonight." That simple act created a memory, a shared ritual, something no one else had ever given her. It was playful, it was unique, and it carved itself into her heart. But here's the caution. The roller coaster should not be manipulative. It is not about causing unnecessary drama or pulling someone's emotions like puppet strings. It is about allowing authentic highs and lows to exist, about being unafraid of silence, laughter, or vulnerability. A Stoic man does not seek control over another's heart. He seeks mastery over his own presence. And when he brings that presence into a connection, emotions arise naturally. Remember this: the human brain does not hold on to daily routine. She will not remember every good morning text you send, but she will remember the night you both got caught in the rain and ran laughing through the streets. She will remember the story you told that made her tear up. She will remember the way you looked at her during a moment of silence that spoke more than words. That is the emotional roller coaster, and it is far more powerful than endless predictability. So the lesson is clear. Do not aim for constant comfort. Aim for depth, contrast, and authenticity. Let her feel safe with you one moment, surprised by you the next, touched deeply after that. Emotions are the glue of memory, and when you are the man tied to her most powerful emotions, you become unforgettable. That is not manipulation. That is psychology. That is presence. Trigger 7. The imprint effect. The power of leaving a lasting mark on someone's memory. If you think back to your own life, you probably cannot recall what you ate for lunch 2 weeks ago, but you do remember your first heartbreak, your first kiss, the day you lost someone you loved, or that one spontaneous night when everything seemed magical. Why do we remember those moments so vividly? Because they were peak emotional experiences. They left an imprint on the mind. And in relationships, the man who creates those imprints becomes unforgettable. Kabir understood this when he invited Sana to a quiet little book cafe. It wasn't glamorous or expensive. The lights were warm. The smell of old pages mixed with coffee hung in the air. And they talked for hours about dreams, fears, and life. But then he did something extraordinary. He asked her to write down a dream she had never told anyone before. Fold the paper and keep it safe. He didn't ask to read it. He didn't press her for details. He just promised that when she achieved it one day, he would be the first to celebrate with her. That moment separated him from every other man she had met. He didn't just share a conversation. He created a memory tied to her deepest self. This is the imprint effect. It is not about showing off wealth or reciting clever lines. It is about giving someone a unique emotional anchor that no one else can replicate. It might be a ritual, a story, a shared secret, or a symbolic gesture. It doesn't need to be big, it just needs to be real. And when it is real, it lodges itself in the heart and mind. Stoicism teaches us that life is brief and our actions ripple beyond us. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What we do now echoes in eternity." Leaving an imprint on someone is not about controlling their mind. It is about creating something meaningful enough to echo long after the moment passes. A Stoic man knows he cannot control if someone loves him forever, but he can control how he shows up in a way that cannot be forgotten. Think of historical examples. Why do people still talk about Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech? Because it was not just words, it was an imprint, tied to emotion, hope, and vision. Why do soldiers remember the exact words of encouragement their commander gave before battle? Because in that heightened emotional state, the memory became carved into their soul. You can apply the same principle in relationships, not by giving speeches, but by creating shared moments that feel timeless. Here's a simple contrast. One man takes a woman to an expensive restaurant, buys her gifts, and shows her a luxury lifestyle. Another man takes her to a quiet park at night, lies on the grass, and they both point out constellations they invent together. A year later, which memory will stay stronger? Almost always the second, because it imprints an emotion, not just an expense. But here's the crucial point: imprints only last if they are genuine. If you try to force them or fake them, they collapse into manipulation. A stoic man doesn't create moments to trap someone. He creates them because he values depth, presence, and honesty. He creates them because he knows life is richer when we connect beyond the surface. The imprint effect is a byproduct of living authentically and courageously. So what can you do? Share a story you've never told anyone else. Create a small ritual. Maybe you always clink your coffee mugs before taking the first sip, or you always take a picture under a street lamp when walking together. Show her a place that means something to you, not just a random destination. Leave behind a piece of yourself in the experience. These are the things she cannot find with any other man. And once she has felt them, you will live in her memory long after you've left the room. The lesson is simple: women don't remember things. They remember feelings. They don't obsess over the man who buys the most gifts. They obsess over the man who made them feel seen, understood, and alive in ways no one else could. That is the imprint effect. Create peak emotional experiences, and you will never be forgotten. Conclusion: the Stoic lesson on attraction and obsession. After walking through these 7 psychological triggers, the dopamine hook, the scarcity magnet, mystery and curiosity, calm leadership, the scarcity effect, the emotional roller coaster, and finally the imprint effect, we can now step back and see the bigger picture. These principles are not about cheap tricks or manipulation. They are about understanding the way the human mind works and aligning yourself with timeless truths. But here is the deeper lesson: none of these triggers are sustainable if they are not rooted in who you truly are. The dopamine hook works because unpredictability excites the brain. But if you are simply playing games, she will eventually see through it. The scarcity magnet pulls her in when your time is valuable. But if your time is empty, if you are just pretending to be busy, she will sense the hollowness. Mystery keeps her curious, but mystery without substance collapses into emptiness. Leadership inspires trust, but only if it grows from self-discipline rather than ego. The scarcity effect creates desire, but only if your life is truly full. The emotional roller coaster makes you unforgettable, but only when your emotions are authentic. And the imprint effect leaves a mark, but only if what you offer comes from a place of truth. This is where Stoicism comes in. The ancient Stoics taught that we should never seek to control others, only ourselves. You cannot force someone to love you. You cannot guarantee that a woman will become obsessed with you, no matter how many strategies you use, but you can control your own presence, your own discipline, your own purpose. And when you live as a man who is calm, grounded, intentional, and rare, attraction follows naturally. You do not chase it, you embody it. Think of Marcus Aurelius. As emperor, he could command armies and empires. Yet in his private writings, he constantly reminded himself not to be consumed by ego, not to chase applause, but to focus on virtue. Or think of Epictetus, born a slave, who became one of the most respected philosophers in history, not because he begged for attention, but because he lived with integrity. These men understood something modern psychology now confirms: when you master yourself, you become magnetic to others. So what does this mean for you today? It means that if you are tired of being overlooked, of giving and giving only to be ignored, the answer is not to chase harder. The answer is to stop chasing altogether. Turn your attention inward. Build your body, sharpen your mind, strengthen your spirit. Pursue goals that matter. Cultivate friendships that last. Live with purpose. When you do, you naturally become less available, more mysterious, more valuable. And the 7 triggers arise not as strategies, but as natural consequences of your lifestyle. Women do not become obsessed with men who try to look high value. They become obsessed with men who are high value. The difference is subtle but critical. One is performance, the other is essence. Stoicism teaches you to seek essence, not appearances, to be, not to seem. And here is the final reflection. Attraction is not about tricks, it is about resonance. It is about being so deeply anchored in who you are that others cannot help but feel it. When you live with discipline, when you embody calm leadership, when you protect your time, when you create moments of genuine emotion, you leave an imprint not just on women, but on everyone you meet. You become the kind of man people remember, respect, and are drawn to. So I leave you with this question. Are you ready to stop measuring your worth by how others respond and start building your worth from within? Because the day you do that, you will discover the paradox the Stoics always knew. The less you chase approval, the more it comes. The less you cling to desire, the more desire finds you. The less you try to be unforgettable, the more unforgettable you become. That is the true secret. Not manipulation, not games, but mastery of self. And when you live this way, you will no longer ask how to make someone obsessed with you. You will instead ask how to live so fully, so authentically, that obsession is inevitable. And that is the path of the Stoic man.